share, recipe share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share. Recipe Share, Recipe Share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Recipe Share, a program on AADL TV where we take a few minutes to talk about recipes in a featured category. Today's category is Sweetened with Honey. I'm Elizabeth, and as usual, I'm joined today by Katie and Beth to tell us about their recipes. So Katie, tell us about your Sweetened with Honey recipe.
All right. Well, first I have to say that this category was a big challenge for me. I ended up trying like so many different recipes that I was just like not really satisfied with. So I was ready to come to you today with a fail, but I am pleased to say that at the very, very last minute, I was able to find a recipe that I am happy to share with you. And it is for Emily's Honey Lime Coleslaw. And this comes from the Taste of Home website. And it's a very simple coleslaw, but it's just like different than your traditional mayo-based coleslaw because it's got a honey lime vinaigrette. So you just start by making the vinaigrette. You take lime zest, lime juice, honey, minced garlic, salt, pepper, and crushed red pepper flakes, and you just whisk those all together in a bowl. And then you add in so all that comes out to like about I would say like a half a cup, maybe a little bit less, and then you add in slowly 3 tablespoons of canola oil. And then you add most of your veggies to that. So you got a small head of red cabbage that's shredded, it ended up being 2 medium carrots that are shredded, and then some thinly sliced green onion. And you just coat that all with your dressing, and then you chill it for 2 hours, and then you put a whole bunch of chopped cilantro on top of it before you serve it. It's a very tasty and fresh and light. The one thing that I did notice and will change when I make this again is that there was a lot of excess liquid. And because I noticed it just like right when I took it out just 2 hours after the 2 hours of chilling, like it hadn't made it soggy or anything like that because the veggies are hearty, but there was quite a bit of liquid sitting in the bottom of the bowl. So I did drain it out, and I just think that the next time I make this, I'll just reduce the amount of canola oil. Seemed like a lot to add to what I already had. And then maybe my lime maybe was a little bit juicy, so I would reduce some lime juice just to cut down a little bit of the liquid. And I also think that I would add some chopped up fresh jalapeno to this just to give it a little bit more kick. The red pepper flake was good. You could taste it, but a little bit more of that fresh spice I think would be good. But overall, I thought this was wonderful. Would definitely take this to a picnic or a potluck or something like that. And my husband, who's not a huge fan of coleslaw, really likes this. And I think that it has to do with it not being mayo based. So yeah, it was total win, last minute find for me.
That sounds right up my alley. I love, coleslaws that are not dairy dressing based. It would be so good with fish tacos. That sounds amazing.
I thought the
Yes.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be good right on a fish taco.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yummy.
I'm gonna
It
have to
sounds
do that with this. I will definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds delicious too. I love to try different. I mean, I'm down for any kind of attempt to non-mayo something. Although I do like the mayo in it, but it's nice in the summer to not do that. So lovely.
Yeah. All right, Beth, tell us about your honey recipe.
All right. Also, I love the zing of the lime.
Mm-hmm.
My honey recipe. Okay, so last week in our CSA, we got some parsnips. And the parsnip I used for this recipe, I'm gonna show a picture, but here's a couple, and it was bigger than these. Okay. It was bigger than this. It was more like two of these together. It was huge. So anyway, I knew when I got the parcel, I said, well, I'm gonna look for a recipe that's got, maybe there's something honey in it. So, obviously it's a root veggie, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. And sure enough, there was honey roasted parsnips on a website called Veggie Desserts, which is kind of a funny name because I didn't even realize it till after. I was like, is that supposed to be a dessert? It's just the name of the website. Not everything's a dessert. So that sounded simple enough. And honey isn't a big go-to seasoning for me or sweetener. Partly because it just never has been, but also in the last couple of years, with grandchildren, they're not supposed to have honey until they're like 2. And so I've sort of started omitting it inadvertently. So anyway, it was nice to use it. And so what you do is you wash, trim, peel, and cut the parsnip into finger shapes, like fries, and boil them for 5 minutes, pat dry on a towel. Excuse me. And then you add those to a bowl with a couple tablespoons of flour for just to absorb the liquid and also to make it a little crispy. I think I might even venture to try some not gluten-free flour just so I might make some for my mom because I still have these giant, anyway. So then you lay that out on a baking sheet and you drizzle with oil, olive oil, honey, a few dots of butter, and then 3 garlic cloves, which I think next time I would crush the garlic over it. And then it also called for an herb, but I just didn't find the time. See what I did there? Anyway, I didn't feel like it. I didn't have fresh time and I just didn't. So you roast them for 20 minutes and then flip and roast for another 5 to 10 till it's brown and crispy. And you're supposed to serve warm. And I had it as a snack actually yesterday, and it was very nice. And like I said, I'm going to try making it again. That was my recipe.
That is unexpected. I'm glad it was good. I feel like like, what did you slice the garlic?
It was 3 cloves.
Yeah.
Is what it called for. And I just kind of stuck it on one of them, and then it kind of got roasty. And then, so yeah, it just ended up being browned out, roasted. And I do have a picture which may or may not have garlic in it. But yeah, the garlic seemed like an afterthought, although it smelled really nice, and it was a nice melding, and salt and pepper at the end too. I don't know if I mentioned, but yeah, unexpected indeed. I didn't expect to see that thing in my CSA.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing that I think is so impressive, right? Like, you got this giant amount of parsnips in your CSA. I would be like, what in the world am I gonna do with this? I mean, parsnips are great, but that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
I think that it's super impressive that you found a recipe that used a lot of them. You liked it. You're gonna make it again, and it uses honey. So well done.
Thank you. I appreciate the kudos.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
All right. Oh, nice. I'm glad you said that, because I remember I was looking, and Elizabeth, one time way back, you did use parsnips in a root veggie, but it wasn't like this.
Yeah.
So anyway, I appreciate you guys. You're so sweet. And we got Elizabeth.
Yeah. Okay. So similar to Beth, honey's not like my go-to. I would mostly occasionally use it in a dressing, kind of like Katie did. If a dressing calls for a sweetener to balance something out. But so anyway, I was like, oh, what am I gonna make? And actually I did make a very good dressing that involved honey, but I decided to save that recipe for a later recipe share because the honey was not really the most important part and it was interesting in other ways. So anyway, what I ended up doing was making miso honey chicken and asparagus. I just found this recipe on the internet, and I was immediately interested because you do marinate the chicken, but only for 30 minutes. And so that was nice because sometimes I find when you're going to marinate, I'm looking at the recipe and I'm like, oh crap, I was supposed to do this 8 hours ago, and now it's already 5 o'clock, and like this is not going to work anymore. So I was like, this is cool, weeknight, don't have to like do anything beforehand. So basically, in a bowl, you whisk together 3 tablespoons of white miso, 3 tablespoons of honey, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, tablespoon of rice vinegar, some finely grated fresh ginger, finely grated garlic. It says like 2 teaspoons of both. I just kind of eyeballed it. And then 2 teaspoons of like an Asian chili garlic sauce, or they said that you could use another hot sauce if you don't have that. I happen to have like a Thai chili garlic sauce, so I used that. And then a tablespoon of oil and a tablespoon of water. And you're supposed to, you whisk it all together and then you divide it in half. So you put half of it in a different container. And then you place 1.5 to 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs in a shallow dish or a zip top bag, and you pour the half the marinade on top and toss it until it's coated and let it marinate for, it said, up to 30 minutes, because longer it claimed would dry out the chicken. I don't know. I was like, okay. So then this was kind of interesting. This is a like broiler recipe, which I very rarely use my broiler because I find it's like this all happens too fast. Like we should just bake it because broiling is just like, I don't know. But I was like, I'll give it a shot. So you line a baking sheet with aluminum foil, you heat the broiler, and then you take the chicken out, place it in a single layer on one half of the baking sheet, and then place a bunch of asparagus on the other side, drizzle the asparagus with some oil, salt and pepper, whatever. And then you basically are supposed to broil until the chicken is cooked through with a couple charred spots, which said about 10 minutes. And then when you serve it, you're supposed to drizzle the chicken with the reserved marinade and a sprinkle of scallions, and it suggested serving over rice. The broiler did throw me off a little. Like I ended up, I mean, it was chicken thighs, so it was fine, but I feel like I ended up overcooking it just because I'm not used to using it. And so I was like thinking next time I would do this, but I would just bake it. Like the broiler does speed things up, but I think I would just bake it for like 25 minutes and that would be fine. And maybe throw the asparagus on for the last like 15. So it was good. I liked putting the reserved marinade over the chicken, and like it kind of also was good, like because some of it got into the rice and that was like very flavorful and nice. And the marinade was good. I really liked it. I actually would have used a little more honey next time because with the chili garlic and the rice vinegar and stuff, I thought it could have been a little sweeter. So maybe it called for 3 tablespoons. I don't know, maybe I would have done 4 or something like that. But it was good. And I liked, like I said, I thought it was nice that this is a good weeknight thing where you don't have to have thought about it in the morning to get the marinade going or whatever. You can totally do it, in 45 minutes for dinner. So yeah, I need to experiment more with my broiler, but I might just bake it next time. So, but it was good. It was a good weeknight dinner, and I liked the marinade. I would use that again.
Yeah, that sounds very tasty. And I agree. I'm not, my broiler is one of those underneath, my stove now. I don't like that. Bothers me. But
well, I use my broiler all the time, but just for finishing stuff. So I'm not used to like cooking the whole time under a broiler. So I do think that's unusual. And I think your idea to just bake it in the future is great. The marinade does sound very delicious. One of the recipes that I failed on was a honey chicken recipe. So I'm excited to try yours. That sounds really, really good.
Yeah, it was good. And I agree with you, Katie, because I've done it where it's like, oh, put it under the broiler for like the last 4 minutes to like, and I'm like, oh, that
Yeah,
makes sense. But
fun.
I was like, cook this whole thing, like, geez, I
Yeah.
don't know. So,
Yeah.
You know, it seems like when I was growing up, that's how my parents would cook like steak and stuff. Like if they weren't grilling out
mhm.
some of it. Pardon me. I think yeah, I would have baked it too.
That's what I'll do next
Harm,
time.
no harm, no foul.
No, it was totally
That's the
fine.
foul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, I'm
well,
gonna stop punning. Bye.
if we have no other comments, Beth, did not want to cut you off, but thank you for watching Recipe Share, and be sure to click the link below to look at the event page on aadl.org to find the recipes that we talked about, and do feel free to share your own in the comments. Join us next time when we will be talking about marinades with our Marinade on It episode. We're looking forward to seeing what you've been making, so thanks for sharing.
Recipe Share, Recipe Share, share.